Delange, and I'm gonna talk about growth, development, and maturity. Many are confused on when to use the term growth and development when expressing their opinions. Some people use the term growth when they really mean is development, while others use the term development when they really emphasize is growth. These terms should not be interchanged. Why? Because these terms are not synonyms. They have different meanings. Maybe you two are confused on when to use these terms. So for today, we're gonna define properly what is the growth, development, and maturity. First, we're gonna tackle is the term growth. This term, we always encounter this in our daily lives. Example, you meet the past acquaintance of your father and he will say, "Wow, kiddo, you already grown up. You're very small when I last saw you." This man emphasized the term growth when he said that line. So what is growth, by the way? Growth refers to the quantitative change that happens in our body. To be more simple, it is the increase in size and structure of some internal and external body parts of an organism. These changes may be measurable and others may not. For example, the increase in height, gaining of weight, and broadening of bodies for the male. These are the example of growth. After we tackle the growth, let's proceed to development. Development is the qualitative changes of an individual. It is the continuous process throughout the lifespan from conception to death. Development implies improvement in functioning and behavior as a whole of an individual. Example, mental skills. When the mental skills of an individual is developed, he or she can function well in the class and can think very well what's the possible solution to a problem. Having intelligence also is a development. So development is when the skills of an individual is improved and enhanced, making these skills be his or her strength. Without growth, development is possible. In cases of some children, they do not gain in terms of height, weight, and size, but they do experience functional improvement or development in physical, social, emotional, or intellectual aspects. After we tackle development, let's proceed to the last but not the least, maturity. Maturity is the end or goal of growth and development. It is the completion of quantitative and qualitative changes of an individual. Maturity is when we have the capacity to function physically, we enjoy life to the fullest, we do what we want to achieve, and what makes us happy. Mentally, think higher and more advanced than before, being too practical to survive in the challenges of life. Function emotionally. Function emotionally, being not too scandalous in front of us, even when bursting out of anger. Being too kind to forgive those who trespass against us. Function socially. Time that we won't no longer hide in our shells, having confidence to face strangers and meet new friends. Function morally. Show moral attitudes and gain respect for ourselves. If we already achieved this, then we can say that we already conquered maturity. I hope this explanation helped you to differentiate what is growth, development, and maturity. That's all. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Good day to everyone. Before I discuss this lesson, let me introduce myself first. I'm Filomena Yulin, came from Cebu Technological University with a course of BSIT major in Computer Technology. I am here in front of you to discuss about heredity. What comes into your mind when you heard this term heredity? Let us know first how heredity contributes to what we are and to what we will be. When we say heredity, it is what we call a biological process whereby genetic factors are transmitted from one generation. In addition, heredity is one factor of development wherein father's sperm cells and mother's ovule unites. Conception or fertilization takes place when these two germ cells, the father's sperm cells and the mother's ovule unites. And fertilized egg is what we call a zygote. In heredity, The sum of characteristics and associated potentialities are transmitted genetically to an individual organism. Let us go over with the human chromosomes. Where can we find human chromosomes? How can we describe it? We can find human chromosomes within the nucleus cell in our body. To describe it, it's long, colored, special-shaped molecule with a hair-like structures that contains tightly strands of DNA, or what we call a deoxyribonucleic acid. The role of DNA is to give special hereditary informations to a cellular development of the organism. It looks like twisted ladder. That is what we call a genetic substance that carries the hereditary information. We have already known that most human cells have 46 chromosomes arranged in 23 pairs during conceptions. The chromosomes has a number of dark bands. One gene in each pair comes from the father's human chromosomes, while the other one gene comes from the mother's ovum chromosomes. So the offspring will receive half of their parents' total genes. What results of the development which makes up the hands, the brains, and nerves and other parts of our body. The chromosomes are not visible in our nucleus. Why? It's because there is a transition point which is called a centromere. The complete set of genes is what we call a human genome. I hope you understand my discussion, and thank you very much. Enjoy watching.
Good day, I'm Teresa Mizamora and I will explain to you the process of heredity. There are 5 principles that govern the process of heredity. The first one is the principle of reproduction. This explains that if a woman gives birth to his or her child, each parent contributes half of his or her genes to the child, and if this child will have his or her own children, he or she will also contribute half of his or her gene. It simply put that the gene contributes generation to generation to a family. The second principle is the principle of variation. Have you ever wondered why an elephant always gives birth only to a baby elephant and not some other animal? Or are the offspring identical to their parents, or do they show differences in some of their characteristics? Have you ever wondered why siblings sometimes look so similar to each other or sometimes even so different? These and several related to questions are dealt with scientifically in branch of biology known as genetics. This subject deals with the inheritance as well as the variation of characters from parents to offspring. Inheritance is the process by which characters are passed on through parent progeny. It is the basis of heredity. Variation is the percentage by which progeny differ from their parents. The third principle is the principle of chance. This principle explains that genes are sorted by chance and there is no way of controlling this assortment. So each of us will differ from each one else. The inheritance is only by a chance. The fourth principle is the principle of dominance and recessiveness. This principle explains that genes is either dominant or recessive. If both parents have a dominant gene, the child will also inherit the dominant trait. For example, the mother has curly hair and it is dominant and the father has a straight hair. But their child will get the curly hair that came from her mother, which is dominant. The child will also carry the recessive trait, which is the straight hair, and maybe it will be expressed later on to his or her own children. A recessive can only appear when both parents have recessive genes. Like for the child to be blue-eyed, both parents must be blue-eyed. If one parent is brown-eyed, which is dominant, that parent must carry a recessive gene for blue eyes. To be their child will have blue eyes. The fifth and last principle is the principle of sex-linked traits. A particularly important category of genetic linkage has to do with the X and Y sex chromosomes. These not only carry the genes that determine male and female traits, but also those for some other characteristics as well. Genes that are carried by Either sex chromosomes are said to sex link. In human beings, there are 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. The first 22 pairs of chromosomes called autosomes determine traits and characteristics, while the last pair is gonosome, determine the next sex of the individual. And that's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Go. Good day everyone, I'm Michelle Langueta. I'm here to discuss about the twins and multiple births. The term twin refers to the two individuals or one of two individuals who have shared the same uterus but not necessarily born on the same day. Twins may be identical, fraternal, and Siamese. Fraternal twins are the result of fertilization of two ripe mature eggs simultaneously released by the ovary. An identical twin or monozygotic twins comes from a single cell that splits into halves because identical twins originated from the same zygote. They are always of the same sex, resemble each other in all their hereditary physical traits but differ in some aspects such as emotionally, mentally, socially, or morally. In rare cases, the division of the zygote is incomplete, and the result of this is a pair of Siamese twins who may be joined at the buttocks, chest, neck, brain, and other parts of the body. The name Siamese arose because the first of such twins that received publicity came from Siam, now Thailand, in 19th century. The question is, why is it that they are identical?
Take a look at the picture. These are the examples of fraternal twins, commonly known as non-identical twins. Usually occur when two fertilized eggs are implanted in the uterine wall at the same time. That is, when the mother releases two eggs and both become fertilized by two different sperms. The two eggs form two zygotes, and these twins are therefore also known as dizygotic. Dizygotic twins, like any siblings, have a very small chance of having the exact same chromosome profile, but most likely have a number of different chromosomes that distinguish them. The next picture is an example of identical twins. Identical twins occur when a single egg is fertilized by a single sperm to form one zygote or monozygotic. But the zygote then divides into two separate embryos. The biological mechanisms that prompt the single fertilized egg to split in two remain a mystery. The two embryos develop into foetuses sharing the same womb. The next picture is an example of identical twins. Identical twins occur when a single egg is fertilized by. The last picture is an example of Siamese twins. The medical term for Siamese twins is conjoined twins. They can only form if they are identical. This is because of its cause. When a sperm fertilizes an egg, it becomes a new cell called a zygote. Shortly thereafter, the zygote begins to divide from one cell to two, two to four, etc. This takes place in a jelly-like coating called the zona pellucida. Occasionally, the zona pellucida also divides, separating the cell masses, which then begin to divide also, because these two cell masses were from the first original cell, the zygote. They are genetically identical and are called monozygotic twins. The last picture is an example of Siamese twins.
Good day. I am Lavinia Versosa and I am here to discuss the sex determination. A sex determination is a biological system that determines the development of sexual characteristics in an organism. Most sexual organisms have two sexes. Occasionally, there are hermaphrodites in case of one or both sexes. There are also some species that are only one sex due to parthenogenesis, the act of a female reproducing without fertilization. In many cases, sex determination is genetics. Males and females have different alleles or even different genes that specify their sexual morphology. The female has two X chromosomes and the man has X and Y. During the process of meiosis, when the sex cell division takes place in adults, the female cell divide into X sex cells. The male cells divide into X and Y cells. A person has 46 chromosomes in total. So 23 chromosomes came from the mother and 23 from the father. During fertilization, an X sperm cells in combination with a female X cells.
Hi, I'm Jodeline Labandero, and I will discuss about environment. Environment. It is heredity does not operate in a vacuum, but that is constantly limited and modified by environment. It is an interdisciplinary field focused on the interplay between human and their surroundings. In environment include all the conditions inside or interval environment and outside or external environment. Interval environment is the immediate environment which includes the intracellular environment and extracellular environment. Intracellular environment, it is consisting of all the genetic materials held by the cell membrane and it's best described as organelles, cytoplasm, nucleus, water, proteins, and other chemicals. Extracellular environment, or sometimes extracellular space, means outside the cell. This space is usually taken to be the outside the plasma membrane and occupied by fluids and is consisting of the blood hormones and lymph fluids in the body. Next is external environment, includes the prenatal environment and postnatal development. Prenatal environment is the study of the foundation of health in body, mind, emotions, and enduring response patterns to life. It explores the psychological effects and implications of the earliest experiences of the individual before birth, which is prenatal, as well as during and immediately after childbirth, perinatal, on the health and learning ability of the individual on their relationship. Postnatal development, Latin for after birth, from post, meaning after, and natalis meaning of birth, is the period of beginning immediately after the birth of a child and extending for about 6 weeks. A related term is postpartum period which refers from the mother, whereas a postnatal refers of the infant, less frequently used is puerperium. It is the time after birth, a time in which the mother's body, including hormone levels and uterus size, returns to a non-pregnant state.